So just to properly introduce everybody, so Chris is joining us today from the Bruton Correspondence School, which is a kind of new project that he and his wife have set up. And because you've recently moved to Somerset, is that right, Chris?
Yeah, we yeah, we moved here on the 2nd of January from London, having lived in London for 20 years, and we've moved to Bruton. We bought a house on the high street, which used to be the pharmacy, and we intend eventually to open up a kind of quite modestly sized compared to yours. Kind of arts institution, and obviously we both still work in London, so we kind of commute up to London a bit. The building needs kind of quite a bit of work, and plans have everyone's plans this year have just massively been sort of changed, actually. And we'd only been here for a couple of months, and then actually it's been in one way really nice. We don't have to commute to London anymore.
Yeah, the ideal place.
Yeah, we do all of our work, so we've properly been able to kind of land here. And what we, I suppose, wanted to do, because we haven't been able to do anything with the space as of yet, was to really sort of do something which partly in a way put us on the map, but also in a way connected us to some extent with our new community, and also continued to kind of work with our existing kind of networks across the UK and internationally as well, actually, which is sort of a reflection of what we hope to do eventually. And really, I don't know, the idea of doing it using the mail was like a direct response to how many Zoom calls I was having to do, and we were both in, juggling sort of Zoom calls with 2 young children at home, and feeling like we'd never been on a computer as much before. And also everything just seemed to be changing and seemed to be so sort of immediate all the time and quick and fast. And the idea of a mail art project really appealed to us both, because it's the absolute opposite of that. And, it really is a kind of slow kind of process. And because we're doing it all, it's even slower, because as it generates and more people get involved, it takes us slightly longer, and we've only got the capacity of us. And the time that we have to do it is when the kids go to bed. And it's been, I guess, cathartic. It's been really refreshing. There's been some extraordinary sort of serendipitous kind of things that have kind of come out of it as well, because we've realized that lots of other people are kind of thinking quite sort of similar things, and want to sort of reach out and in exactly the same way that you reached out to us as well. It's been really reassuring to us, actually, that there's a really interesting kind of vibrant community of practitioners where we are, and that's been really nice.
Because I suppose that is the interesting thing sort of about Somerset as a whole. So just for clarity, everybody that's on the call is mostly here from Somerset, apart from London. And from what I gather, I'm not too sure about yourself, Anne, but I think everybody is fairly new to Somerset within sort of 3 or 4 years. Is that right?
Well, my husband's born and bred in Glastonbury, and we were in Edinburgh for 20 years and moved back here about 6 years ago. But I've been coming here for 30 years, so reasonably familiar with Somerset, but I've only lived here for the last 6 years.
And how have you been finding it, sort of as an artist, or as a student artist as you are at the moment? How have you found
in Somerset? Obviously you can be quite isolated because the parts are rural, but I'm also a musician, so really quite connected, because we connect with lots of musicians at various festivals. So there are there's quite a thriving art community here, but you just have to know how to tap into it, I think. Bruton, Chris, is very thriving art community. We also didn't realise that we were featured in the Sunday Best Isolation Arts School last week. You mentioned in a comment, I manage arts things, and we were both picked for the Sunday Best.
Okay,
so that's a coincidence, very synchronous that we're both on the same call.
Brilliant.
So,
yeah. I mean, I'd approached them because I think, I mean, it's been such a great resource, and I approached them and I said, look, how do I go about, getting something kind of featured? And they said, oh, we'd love to do something. Will you record something for us? Keep it under 60 seconds and send us some information with a copy of the brief. And of course, being a slow art project, we hadn't quite got round to it. So we were very pleasantly surprised that they just decided to go ahead and do it anyway, using kind of the information that they got. But I don't know how you felt about that. That's just a really nice kind of recognition of sort of what we're doing, and the fact that, interestingly, I'd only ever done this with students before. Obviously I'm an educator. I've been teaching for 20 years, and I've done loads of projects like this before with students, but I'd never done it with colleagues or other kinds of practitioners. And it was, Becky and I, we kind of drew up a list of people that we knew, that we thought could be interesting kind of collaborators to kind of begin with. But it's now, and I don't know if this is just something to do with the way that sort of Instagram kind of is, it's now also given us the confidence to just reach out to people as well. Sort of being sort of because it's not really us, because it's a thing. It's given us the confidence to kind of reach out to people, and it's really nice. The Instagram community, and I guess a community like this, is so welcoming and open. I've been really pleasantly surprised. I've been in contact with a couple of artists that I really like. Would you like to join in? And they both said yes.
Right.
That's been really nice.
Yeah, and I suppose for you, how did, because you say you've been sort of doing this with your students for kind of a time as well, and so when did you sort of first come across the movement, and what sort of interest has that kind of had for you along the way?
I remember being in the bookshop in the Serpentine and finding a book about Ray Johnson, who really is the most well-known kind of purveyor of kind of mail art. And it's that bookshop. I can't remember who does the bookshop, but there are all these discounted art bookshops. So there's a couple of different bookshops that you can kind of get these books in. So it was 50 quid reduced to 10 quid, and I picked that up. And I also I bought another book, which is a book of illustrated postcards by a guy called Henrik Drescher. And I googled it the other day to see if I get another copy of it. I've still got my copy, but it's now typically out of print and really, really expensive. So there's no way of getting other copies of that one, I'm afraid. But it's called Postal Seance, and in that he writes postcards to dead people, and he sends this sort of series of and postcards to kind of dead people, and there are a whole range of kind of sort of thinkers and artists and really interesting kind of people, and he wrote, not long, darling, I'll be a little while. Sorry. He wrote these postcards and actually physically posted them. So he lost track of them completely, because they were to imagined people in the afterlife. And I guess that was probably about kind of 15 years ago or so. And at the time, I did a lot of field trips with the students that I was teaching, and was running pretty much every year a trip to New York. And so what we would do is we would use the postal service in New York. And there was also something really exciting about doing it in a foreign country as well. The fact that we had to go to the post office in America and buy American stamps, and they had all sorts of amazing packaging and really great things. But we sort of took influence from Ray Johnson and the New York Correspondence School, and we sort of experimented with what we could get away with posting back to the UK. So we would just stick stamps on stuff we found and take it to the, take it to the post box and chuck it in the post box. And often the only documentation of it was a photograph of someone doing it, or a drawing that, you know, I was instructing students to draw all the time. So they would make illustrations of each other kind of doing it. And what was really interesting was that I'd say 95% of the stuff that we sent got back.
Oh, wow.
A lot of it came back in plastic bags with a letter of apology from the postal service, because they thought they'd broken what we were sending.
Yeah.
And I've just always loved the idea of getting things through the post. And I don't know if any of you are finding this at the moment, but in lockdown, getting things through the post, it's just magical. It's so lovely. And you know, the kids run to the door every time they hear the door, and they pick up, and we're getting these packages through the post pretty much every day now, which is really lovely. And it was the same. And we did another project during Christmas time with some students, where we asked the students to send each other something during the Christmas break, and then they had to add to it and alter it and then send it on. So all of these things are kind of loosely sort of inspired by kind of Ray Johnson's kind of activities, and it now just felt kind of the right time to do it. I also really like restrictions and working within restriction, and this is a perfect restriction. So I have to be honest, I've bought some masking tape on Amazon, so I have been buying a couple of materials, but apart from that, we've made everything from the things that we have to hand at the time. And I also really like that. And so the next phase of the project, because we run out of materials, so you think, right, what will we use now? So I think the next phase of the project, we're starting to reuse the packaging that people are sending things to us with. And I just love it's forcing us in a way to be creative and inventive with the things that we have sort of immediately to hand. And that's I think as a practitioner, it's often a good place to start.
So it sounds like sorry, Anne, go ahead.
Sorry, one of our life drawing classes at college, the lecturer gave us an envelope, and we had to tear the envelope to open it out. And he gave us we had a biro pen, and we had to do the life drawing of the life model with biro on the back of an envelope. So that was quite challenging in itself. Then he told us he wanted us to reseal the envelope and post it to him. So similar to the project you've just described. And we all found that really challenging, because not only were we having to display our life drawing with a biro on the outside of the envelope, but we actually had to post it to him. So quite a lot of them did come back, and as you say, some of them came back with plastic bags or stickers over them saying apologies, because they thought they'd damaged the envelope because they were already been ripped, you see. But I was a bit embarrassed about going to the post office with this drawing of this male life model. You know, he was in full reclining pose, and so I took bits of articles and made it into a collage and covered up the various bits, so you know, to make it more discreet for posting. So that in itself was quite a good process. But I'll be fascinated to see some of your project, Chris. And also, I'm working for Somerset Local Foods at the moment, and we've got a wealth of net bags and plastic containers and boxes and things. If anyone needs them for art materials, I've used the vegetable bag as a weave-in to weave it as a framework, but there's lots of uses. If anyone's got any use for those materials, just give me a shout and I can get them to you.
So what's the Somerset, what was it, sorry, Anne?
Somerset Local Foods, you know, we deliver food. People order food online, we deliver food. I did this is a vegetable bag.
Oh wow.
Embroidered into it. But there's loads of uses for them. They're really strong materials, so.
And how what's been the reach so far for you, Chris? How far have you?
Well, I don't know if this is cheating, but I've got a friend in New York, so I've sent something to her, but a couple of others in the States had been in touch. And this is the thing, you know, it's already kind of grown almost too quickly for us to manage. Originally, when we came up with the list of people, we restricted it to the UK simply because so many other places were on quite strict lockdown. And the initial kind of instructions sort of specified that you could do this without going to the post office. So by keeping things small and not bulky, and if you had stamps at home, you could go to a post box, safely. So actually within the instructions, it asks you to do it safely. And Becky and I have got, I suppose, friends all over and contacts all over the world. And we've gradually, I suppose, as people have got in touch with us, we've gradually extended it. So quite a few in France. I've got a colleague who's gone back to Italy. He's managed to get back to Italy. So I've sent one to him. We've sent them to Germany. We've sent, it's funny, I geographically thought, somewhat, you see where people are in Instagram and you think that's where they are. I thought someone was in Australia, so I got very excited about that. Actually, they're in Surrey somewhere, but they used to live in Australia. But the reach is it's growing kind of exponentially, and that's the thing. It's quite sort of difficult for us to kind of manage without being on Instagram a lot of the time and kind of replying to people and kind of following people. And so we're doing it slowly and we're doing it kind of in batches. And I suppose what we are doing is, if people are interested in the project and get in touch with us and express an interest, we will send them something. So we will make something and we will send them something. And then we sort of say, look, follow the instructions. The rules are there, but rules are there to be broken. You don't need to follow the rules. And you can either send it back to us if you want to, or send it on to someone else, or initiate your own collaborations and your own correspondences. And I suppose that's why, again, like Anne's project, it's nice that the Isolation Art School pick it up, because really those are kind of briefs that are there for anyone to use. And that's how we imagined it, to be honest. And we imagined it not really that we would be the focal point of it all the time, but that it would take on a life of its own. Although we have been sending a lot of stuff out. So we've probably sent out now just over 100 pieces.
Wow. And that's been since the start of lockdown, is that right?
Yeah. So we've sent those out, and I don't know how many pieces we've had back. We've had quite a lot of pieces back, and some of those have been on various journeys and then come back to us. Some of them have come straight back. So you make something and some of them come straight back. It's been quite nice that a few people have just sent us things, to initiate a kind of an exchange with us. I have to say we haven't done anything with those yet, but
too busy.
But we will, and that's, I think, we wanted it to start slowly, and we wanted it to gradually kind of build, and also because of it linking and relating to what we will do here in Bruton eventually, and what we intend to do here is have a small creative space where we'll have a couple of artist studios. There'll be some accommodation, and there'll be an educational space as well, but quite modest. It's in our house, basically, a part of our house that we're converting to be able to do this. And also because we both still have full-time jobs, it becomes something that we do, probably residential, summer school, that type of activity. This can grow kind of exponentially, and we've been working on new briefs, and we've got ideas for new briefs as well, so we'll probably set a new brief quite soon. And that's quite exciting. My wife comes from a photography background. She's worked for most of her career, she worked in editorial photography. So she worked at the Sunday Times, and she worked at Wallpaper magazine. And then probably in the last 5 or 6 years, she's gone to the other side. So she works commercially now. So she now commissions for advertising, but she still commissions photography. So the next brief will have a photography kind of slant on it. And it's interesting for us, so we've gone from kind of hardly seeing each other because we were both commuting up and down to London at different times, and staying overnight, to basically living completely together and now working together, which is kind of interesting as well, actually.
And that's what all of this time has kind of thrown up for everybody, hasn't it? Sort of just assessing the ways that we've kind of worked previously, how how we're going to move on from that sort of,
Yeah.
when things start kind of opening back up, how, you know, and I suppose like projects like yourself, restrictions are really good for my practice, or, you know,
Yep.
access to materials, the way that I use materials, and that kind of resourcefulness across the board. You know, I think it's going to be really interesting, you know, with what sort of happens next, really. And I suppose, you know, we've had a kind of brief conversation about the fact, you know, you're sort of the other side of Somerset, and we've got kind of similar ideas, and whether that's something that could develop into a sort of correspondence across the county in an ongoing kind of sense, with people that are kind of, you know, using your space, using our space, and engaging kind of with Somerset. I think that would be quite an interesting thing to sort of explore. And just sort of, I know there's two people on the call here that are kind of taking part, have in their own kind of initiated sort of male art exchange. So Megan and Amanda here. And I don't know if you want to share a bit about what you've been kind of doing, sort of in relation to what we've just been talking about. Megan, because Amanda, we can't.
Yeah, I'll be spokesperson. Yeah, so we initially just started as we were sending postcards to each other, because like you were saying, Chris, I think we were so absorbed with these like Zoom meetings and everything was going online, and we just kind of, it was nice just to check in with each other, but through writing, through having a physical thing you could hold, getting it through the post.
Yeah.
And we were both figuring out like how we can adapt our art processes and our practices to this time. So then it just sort of evolved into us sending bits of art in the post. We've only done a couple so far, but we're really excited to get, I think I'm going to be sending out one in a few days again. And it's nice, we've got this little overlap now, and it's potentially going to get more people involved, which, and like you were saying, it's really nice to be receiving things in the post and getting something that you can add to, and potentially have a vision in mind for after all this, and we can have them on show somewhere. Yeah, it's been a really interesting little project.
And is there anything you're thinking about, Chris, with you know, in terms of sort of exhibiting, or is the sort of your Instagram, is that the exhibition? And yeah.
We originally, I suppose, we thought that Instagram was really the repository for the documentation of the project and the evolution of the project, and in that respect, it is that's what it's become. But as soon as we started receiving these things through the post, and we see how beautiful they are, you realise that there's the potential for something, you know, maybe, you know, more kind of physical. And yes, we probably, I would say, you know, almost certainly will exhibit these in our space once we have our space, and we you know, we don't know when that is at the moment. I mean, certainly this year we're hoping that the downstairs part of the building, at the moment the front, if you ever come through Bruton, we're kind of the big sort of pink building at the end of the high street, and we've had to have planning permission to change the colour of the paint on the front of the building, and we're in the middle of doing all of that, and we're working with artists to get something into the windows as well. So because at the moment they've just got dirty sheets up hiding all the building work, and the idea is to have something in there. And once one of those spaces is ready, we'll exhibit. But again, you know, through Instagram, someone else contacted me who's a curator based in Wiltshire, offering their services for free. Yeah, which was really nice. And you know, it would be nice to take it somewhere else, you know, kind of afterwards. We haven't really kind of thought about that. But the physical objects, you know, I think deserve to be kind of seen as well, because you know, things are, you can either misrepresent things digitally as well. You know, so sometimes things can look a lot better online. You know, we can make things look a lot better. You know, and also vice versa. You really can't exchange the experience of seeing something, you know, kind of in the flesh, if you like. But I know Amanda has at least, we've sent some. I think she's received it actually. Yeah, she's got it. She's going to wave it. Yeah, she's going to wave
Hey.
it. She started working on it as well, which is great. That's great. And Anne, likewise, the way that you're talking about, kind of, use of materials. We live next door to a shop, and so once a week they chuck out all their cardboard for recycling. So I've been going out there with the kids, and we've been hand picking through all of the
Brilliant.
kind of, all of the best kind of materials, to kind of use. But it's just it's been nice to have I think for us all to have a distraction from everything that's kind of going on, and to be able to kind of connect with people has been really interesting. And it's and Instagram and those kinds of sort of social media platforms, they're like the virus themselves. You can see how people kind of connect very, very quickly, and things spread, sort of through the connections in a nice way. Obviously, it's a really nice way of it kind of spreading. And then when you follow people, they see that actually they're friends with people that you already know, and things like that. That's been reassuring for us too. Megan, what do you want to send us a postcard?
I would love to send you a postcard.
Okay. I'll put our address into the chat, so you can send us a postcard.
I was going to message you on Instagram asking for something. I thought you might have had a huge stream of requests, but of course, that would be great.
We've got a lot of requests. So we just basically say to people, thank you for your interest. We will get something to you, but don't. This is a slow art project. Don't expect to reply quickly.
And Chris, I mean, I understand it's your home address as well. Would you be comfortable sort of sharing that through, because we'll be documenting what sort of happened in this chat here, but
fine.
People to contact you, you're okay with that?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, brilliant. We'll do that.
I'm typing it now.
Great. And I suppose sort of, it's quite interesting. You've got this kind of slow art movement and this very kind of instantaneous art movement happening at the same time, with the kind of the instantaneous nature of sort of Instagram and everything. How are you sort of finding that and managing that? I suppose.
I think we sort of dedicate a little bit of time to post, and it's either very early in the morning or it's very late at night. We've got two children, one's 3 and one's 6, and we've been, they've been at home with us for however long now as well. So it's sort of juggling kind of that, but also the whole kind of etiquette of social media, keeping in contact with people. A friend recently described, if someone makes a comment on your Instagram posts and you don't respond, it's a little bit like someone saying hello to you in the street and you just walk past them. It's just rude to not kind of reply, really. And so we're trying to kind of dedicate time to make sure that we do that, to kind of acknowledge people and to keep messaging people, and also to keep an eye out on what other people are posting and post on those sort of things as well. I think at some point, you think we will probably get someone else to join in with this and help us do it, but at the moment it's us, and that's fine, and it just kind of takes that long. There's this the whole, we've got a slight backlog of things that we've received, so we've got content, so we are thinking slightly strategically about it. We've never really done anything like this before. We're not business people, we're artists, we're practitioners. So thinking strategically about it we're not very comfortable about it. And also someone very strongly recommended to us that we should introduce ourselves quite soon as well. The mystery behind the Bruton Correspondence School, who we are. And if you follow people on Instagram, I think particularly of late, it's been interesting that people are using this time to reintroduce themselves as well, as they get new followers and things like that. And it's very nice to meet you finally in the flesh as well. It's well, not in the flesh, but see you. It's like, it's so strange when you're just in contact with kind of people like that. And I think Instagram can be a really just a really fantastic way of connecting and kind of communicating with people. I mean, I think you have to manage the amount of time you spend on it, and that's difficult, you know. And you know, it's quite tricky to say to a 3-year-old that they can't watch something on Disney Plus when we're sitting in the corner liking things on Instagram. So we've been very mindful of that it's kind of a thing that we perhaps do sort of out of sight, and we're treating it a little bit like work, actually.
Mm-hmm. Well, I suppose it's that discipline you have to have with the practice, isn't it? And if that's where your practice is at the moment, actually kind of engaging with that and putting parameters in place is kind of a good and a healthy thing.
Exactly.
You were saying before as well that you know you've been getting your kids have been involved with the project a bit as well. So that's really nice. And how have they? And I mean, obviously they've been collecting materials, but also making some of the work. Is that right?
Yeah. So quite a few of the things, they love cardboard and masking tape. They just love it, and you know, so we'll get stuff out on the kitchen table, and we've been making all sorts of things anyway. So you know, my son has built sort of jetpacks out of cardboard boxes and taped things on them, and they've been kind of making things, and then they're cutting things up out of magazines and making little collages, and some of which we've kept, but some of which they've become the basis for things that we've sent to people, you know. So we'll just you know, they'll maybe start sticking some things down, maybe we'll do something kind of on top of them. And also it's very sweet, we've received things from people whose children have made as well, for the children to kind of do it. And I think we said in one of the posts that, you know, creativity doesn't have an age limit, you know, that we'd be overjoyed for anyone to participate in this, really, you know, that any kind of age level, you know, of person. And also, you know, we don't expect everyone to be professional artists in kind of doing this. And that's I suppose that's also the democracy of putting something out there. You know, if you put something out there on Instagram, you have to accept that anyone can do it, anyone can use it. And we're very happy for that to happen. And, you know, it's not like I say, we don't expect to get these things back, and we don't sort of feel an ownership of the project. You know, once it's out there in the ether, you know, everyone can kind of, you know, respond to it. It's been quite sweet, actually. People have been asking permission to do things, and you know, we've been sort of saying, you know, you really can do what you want, you know, it's really entirely up to you, you know, and you don't have to seek our permission to kind of do things, just keep us updated. And it's been really nice also, people share on their stories as they're doing it as well, so we've been sharing some of those things as well, you know, the kind of evolution of things and the tracking of things. And I've given a couple of people a nudge, to be honest, because, you know, I know I've sent things to people, and, you know, I've sort of wondered where they are, and I've just sort of given a little nudge, and I've thought, have you done that yet? And then it's kind of emerged, and things have got lost and kind of come out. But yeah, it's been really nice, you know, we were sort of sharing the idea with the children, and, you know, my son rolls his eyes now every time the post arrives, because there's never anything in there for him.
Yeah.
There's always just these parcels for the Bruton Correspondence School, and I think we'll, you know, that's it. We'll keep going with it. You know, we'll continue to do it, and as people continue to kind of express an interest in it, we'll do it. But, you know, talking about sort of serendipity and things happen, we reposted something that someone sent to us the other day, because on the Tate Instagram feed, they had I think it was a Kurt Schwitters piece. They put a Kurt Schwitters piece up, and they were encouraging people to send mail art. You know, and so it's obviously, yeah. And there's also there's a bookstore in New York called Printed Matter, who sort of stock and sell amazing artists' kind of editions and books and things like that. They've done a mail out, a mail art call out recently, and they're doing stuff. And there was some really lovely publications that they were sharing recently where artists have made books out of the correspondence that they kind of received. And so that, you know, that's kind of really interesting. And there's so much kind of out there. And interestingly, you know, I think you shared the Ray Johnson documentary. I'd never seen that. I didn't know about it.
No, Amanda shared it with me, actually. And yeah, watched it the other day. It's fantastic.
It is great, but again, that came from my son and I one day were in London, and we saw this. Someone had made a drawing on a wall with some tape, and there was a little Instagram tag at the bottom of it, and so we took a picture of it, and we approached that person and said, look, we don't know who you are, but we liked your work. Would you like to get something in the post? And she said yes, and then that she shared it with the community. She shared it with us. She said, have you seen this documentary? And so we were able to share it. So it's just it's stuff like that is kind of, yeah, that's it. How to Draw a Bunny. It's great.
Yeah, brilliant. Recommend anybody give that kind of a watch. And you were just mentioning Schwitters as well, because you spent some time at there, is that right? You were on a kind of residency in...
Done your homework.
Yeah. Up in Lake District, isn't it?
Yeah. So unbelievably, I've got a friend, Becky and I have a friend who, it's a friend of mine from Edinburgh, and Becky and I lived very close to her in London, and she moved to the Lake District to work at Grisdale Arts, which is an art centre up there. And she worked up there for a few years, and then she met someone. He's a sheep farmer, and so now she lives and works with him on the sheep farm. So we were visiting her a couple of years ago, and we I'd read that Kurt Schwitters at the end of his life had lived in the Lake District. Not only that, not only did he live there, he lived and died in the Lake District at the end of his life. He made his last work in the Lake District, and he made it in this small barn in Elterwater, and he didn't complete it. He worked on it for quite some time just before he died, but he also made and sold kind of collages and kind of paintings and things in local cafes and things up there, but we became interested in this and sort of as tried to kind of seek it out and found the barn. The work doesn't exist there anymore. It was rescued in the 60s and taken to a museum in Newcastle. But just in talking to the people that own that place now, they've basically set it up now as a kind of trust, and they've got Arts Council funding to kind of protect, and they've fixed the building and fixed all sorts of the other kind of buildings kind of out there. It's quite an eccentric place. It is quite eccentric, sort of in keeping with the kind of Schwitters legacy, I guess. And we got chatting to Ian and Celia kind of up there, and I think I gave him my card. I had a business card with me, and I gave him a business card. And maybe a few days later, he emailed me with a report about the place, and I just emailed him back and said, could we come back, or could I come back at some point and maybe do a residency? And he just said yes. It was as simple as that. So I think maybe a year later or something, I applied for some funding, and I spent a few weeks up there, and my wife and children came up, and I went back to London sort of in between. And so I stayed in a caravan on the site up there, and I made work partly in response to kind of being there, and had an exhibition at the end of it in the space. I can thoroughly recommend it if you ever get the chance to go to the Lake District, popping in there. It's only open, I think, March till sort of September, something like that. But I was just sort of incredulous that this could kind of exist, and I don't know, and I don't think they know why it's not like one of the most major kind of visited sites in terms of art in Britain. I suppose in a way because they haven't got the actual artwork anymore. It's like they've got a facsimile, they've got a replica of it. But to me, Schwitters was such a sort of an inspiring character, and such an inspiring artist, and such an extraordinary kind of story kind of around him. It was, and clearly certainly within my practice, not within Becky's, but within my practice, collage, montage, assemblage is really big, and Schwitters had always been someone I was interested in. So that was a great opportunity. Again, it's testimony to the generosity of people. I'm just like, if you don't ask, you don't get kind of thing.
Well, which, you know, in a sense is the whole impetus of the kind of project, in a sense,
Yeah.
isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
just sort of see how people are kind of engaging.
Yeah.
And I mean, have any of your students got involved with the project since it's been kind of live?
No, no. I think, and my wife teaches as well. I think actually one of her MA students from Bristol had been in contact. No, I've tended to try and sometimes I keep kind of professional and sort of personal slightly sort of separate. To be honest, I've got 600 foundation students, and if I told them that we were doing something, and even half of them said they wanted to do it, we couldn't cope.
Yeah.
So no, we haven't sort of approached it. No, this was more about sort of. Although interestingly, we've definitely connected with potential students, you know, and people in the local area. So there are people in the local area that have been in touch. Interestingly, one person direct messaged me on Instagram, and we've offered him a place on the course next year. And
Oh,
so
brilliant.
and I'd met him, you know, so I'd met him and not known that he'd applied to the course, and you know, so that's been quite a nice, you know, sort of connection. But there are loads of creative people around here. It was kind of a way of reaching out, and that's why it was so nice that you reached out in that way as well, because you don't know what's just around the corner, you know, you don't know who's kind of nearby.
Yeah. And it just sort of felt, I mean, that was one of the reasons for kind of setting up these sort of meetings during this sort of time as well, really, just to get everyone together and just sort of see how we're all kind of doing, and kind of maintaining that sort of dialogue that you would have been having in a kind of sort of physical sense as well.
Yeah.
And so, because just for your own information, Chris, so Megan and Amanda were both on a kind of program last year called Creative Pathways, which was about sort of emerging artists. So Megan was actually in residence with us for 6 months, was it?
Okay.
So it was herself and another artist, painter, Emma Housley. So they were the first people in the kind of new sort of studio workshop that we'd kind of created.
Yeah.
We were just sort of supporting kind of emerging artists at this sort of time. Amanda was on the same program but a different venue. But you know, since then those kind of networks have established, and we've been kind of sort of maintaining that sort of since then, really, because that kind of all feels really valuable. And one of the things we've noticed since moving to Somerset, you know, there are all these kind of creative communities around, but it's sort of, how do we all connect together? We're here for the same sort of purpose, and you know, we've all kind of moved to the area because it's so beautiful, and you know, got all these kind of things here. And it's just sort of feeling, you know, maybe this sort of digital space is giving us that kind of opportunity to you know, connect and work out what we're doing sort of next, and how we get together in a kind of live sense, and all that kind of thing. And so Nina, who's also on the call, she it runs the Ace Arts Gallery in Somerton. I don't know if you've been to Somerton at all since you've been here. It's a really lovely gallery there, and again, there she is. So yeah, sort of supporting. So there's a well, Nina, I don't know. Do you want to talk about the gallery?
I could do. I should probably first apologise for being late.
Don't worry at all. No, don't worry.
I've missed the beginning, but I can catch up, can't I?
Yes, you can.
Yes.
What's the gallery called? Sorry.
It's called Ace Arts. So
Okay.
ACE, like Arts Council England, Arts.
Yeah.
And we're in the middle of Somerton.
Okay.
We're a baby. We're only 4 years old.
Okay.
So I project manage the renovation of the building, and I work for the charity. So we're actually a registered charity. Currently, all the staff are on furlough, but we have just got the ACE Arts Council England award. So we're going to go back now and start working on because we've got the emergency fund to start working more on our online offering. So of course, you know, our building, I mean, if you haven't been there, then you don't know, but upstairs we've got the exhibition space, We have sort of 8 or 10 exhibitions a year, and that's free for anybody to use. They just apply. We've got a small education space where we can teach about 8 people at a time. And then downstairs, we support just over 100 local artists. So it's very much like a shop front, you know, downstairs. So, but we also do outreach work and work with our local schools and care home too. So we're sort of we're normally doing a lot. So it's been a funny time now to sort of not be doing in a way. But I think the online offering from people like yourselves and Clay Hill and Saw, and you know, there's a lot going on, which has been brilliant. So yeah, we're sort of looking forward to getting back to it. And Debbie and I have had conversations before about this kind of marrying up, joining all of these organisations up. I mean, we're good. We chat to each other and everything.
Yeah.
It would be really nice to sort of bring that together, really, for all the artists here, because there's a lot, you know, there's a lot going on, and I think there's a lot we can do. But this project is brilliant. I mean, we're looking at now, you know, how do we physically do our outreach work, because it's going to be a very long time before we can enter care settings and probably schools too. So and this is exactly what I've been looking at, the kind of mailer idea, and you know, and how we do that. But for us it'll be getting back to it, which will be good. We'll see what happens.
I don't mean that's it for everybody at the moment, isn't it? It's it's all starting to kind of bubble open, but you know how that's all gonna pan out, really. But like I say, it just felt really important to sort of have this sort of space to kind of, you know, come together and try and figure that all out together during this time, and know that we're you know, we're all out there for one another. So for yourself, Chris, I suppose you're just kind of seeing how the project's kind of going, and I guess sort of once your kind of building becomes more a reality, that's likely to take a bit more of your kind of time. Will that mean, will you still be working at the same time, or would you like to kind of cross over into a more kind of full-time capacity or is that all a bit unknown, I suppose?
It's a bit unknown, but I think the one of the spaces we have in the building, we'll probably we'll rent that out. It's you know, it's waiting to be a shop, to be honest. But the other space and the other spaces we've kind of earmarked within the building, you know, it's an interesting kind of balance to strike between income generation and simply doing things that we think creatively are worth doing. So there's a mixture of things, and you know, you've probably had to do the same. You know, clearly there are things that we can think about in terms of generating some income, and others that probably wouldn't. And you know, the fact that we both work full time means that we both have, you know, kind of incomes. But to be honest, the longer term plan, I don't know if for both of us, but the longer term plan would probably be involving more work down here than being up in London. But I'm not up in London a lot. I managed to negotiate a sort of working from home, and also I do a compressed working week, so I don't work on a Friday. I'm only in London 3 days a week. But interestingly, the way that we're kind of working at the moment, you know, I'm not anticipating to be back in London until September, actually. That's the earliest I think we can imagine being back in our buildings. And even then, it wouldn't be at full capacity. And I think probably everyone is thinking about how they work in a slightly different way from now on. And everyone's realised that everyone can work from home and things don't collapse.
Yeah.
You know, obviously there's certain things we need to do because we need to be in a room together to kind of do it. But and obviously teaching, you know, we would in an ideal world like to do a mixture of face-to-face and online, you know, if that were possible. I wouldn't like to, you know, as a long-term plan, be doing only online teaching. I don't think it's it's as effective. But a mixture of online and face-to-face could be really effective. You know, and that would allow us, you know, different kinds of capacities. And I suppose that's the way that all businesses are having to think at the moment: different capacities, and what can you do slightly differently? You know, and the entrepreneurship of people is sort of amazing at the moment. I mean, talk about there's so much content out there at the moment. I can't keep up with it. You know, it's all. And again, that was sort of why we did this as well, because it was kind of overwhelming. It was overwhelming, the amount of information we were kind of receiving, and, you know, watching the news constantly, and, you know, listening to things. And I just thought, do you know what? I'm going to stop reading the news, actually, and listening to the news, and let's start writing to people, and let's read books, and let's do things whilst this kind of all happens. Because actually, all we can really control is what we're doing on a daily basis at the moment. And things are gradually easing and kind of changing. And of course, we all need to think about, you know, how our lives will kind of get back to normal. But this is definitely, I suppose it's been an opportunity for us to dip our toe in the water. And, you know, it means then that, you know, in 6 months' time, when we launch the space, people go, it's them.
Yeah.
You know, them, you know, because we've been doing this for a few months, and we're not doing it from a standing still kind of position. We've been connecting with people, and it's been great. And thank you so much for inviting us.
Oh, well, no.
Sorry, but obviously it's just,
I think it's, you know,
me today, Becky.
Yeah, well, another time. You know, there's lots to juggle at the moment. But no, like I say, it just sort of felt, you know, the fact that you were here, and it's a great project anyway, regardless of where you were. But the fact you're here in Somerset is brilliant. And, you know, when we can all move again, it would be nice to kind of, you know, see each other in kind of real life. Maybe I'll hand deliver. So I've been sent a piece sort of too. And yeah, so I guess we're just sort of thinking about what we can kind of do next with all of this. We've got, and
sorry, I'm wrestling a 3-year-old now.
That's okay. Well, you've been kept on online for quite a while now, so
I know I should probably go, actually.
Baby broke a bone.
That's okay.
Can I just say, if any of you are there and haven't been in touch with the Bruton Correspondence School and would like to be in touch with the Bruton Correspondence School, the easiest way, well, you can write to us now because I've given you our address, but you can follow us on Instagram and just send us a direct message, and we'll get back to you. And Debbie, you need to start working on your piece.
I know, I have started a bit.
Oh, okay, excellent.
Little.
Okay, excellent.
But yeah, I might be actually sending it on, I think, yeah.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
don't forget to document it so we can see it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, the whole, just one final thing before you go. I suppose I was just sort of thinking with what you were saying, the fact that this is almost a bit, you know, what you're kind of doing at the moment is a bit sort of, you know, kind of like self-promotion in terms of what artists kind of need to be sort of thinking about using the tool of Instagram sort of for, in terms of, you know, branding, I suppose.
Yeah.
One of the term, but I suppose it is a bit of kind of like a work in progress, you know, the fact that you're out there sharing it, you know, about what's kind of happening and what you're kind of doing, and then when it's ready, when you're ready, like, you know, everybody kind of understands where you're kind of coming from. So I
think it's strategy without being kind of sort of too business minded about it. You know, there is a sort of strategy, you know, kind of to it, but it's a gentle, and it comes from I think the right place. You know, it's a genuine kind of attempt to connect with people, but also connect other people with each other as well. So in just the very first set of things that we made, when we sent them out, we stuck a post-it note on them with someone else's address on it. So we did slightly contrive the beginning of it so that we sowed these kind of seeds of germination. But it was really nice because a friend of ours forgot to document the thing that she'd made, and then it got lost. We didn't know where it was, and she couldn't remember who she'd sent it to, it just turned up the other day, and so she was delighted to, you know, to kind of see it back. And that's the thing, these things could pop up. I know there are 2 people in Bruton that I've given work to. They've both done it. They've both made the thing, but it's just sitting on their mantelpiece, and they haven't done it, and they haven't even dropped it back through our letterbox yet. So these are all just sort of seeds of kind of germination, and art practice, you know, is kind of like that in a way. You know, you know, there's a durational, you know, sort of aspect to them that things kind of, you'll go on sometimes. But yeah, it's been. Thank you very much for.
Oh, you're welcome, and
giving us the time to share. And like I say, if anyone else is interested, just do get in touch with us. And Debbie, we'll keep in touch about podcasts.
Yeah, to go into this in a bit more depth, that would be great. Yeah, with Becky as well. Brilliant.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, everyone.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye bye.